Right, the city of Tshwane, on the other hand, and Samwu are set to meet again to address the ongoing workers' strike. But at the same time, the city is heading to court for a contempt of court order. This action follows the Labour Court's ruling that the strike is both illegal and unlawful, and over 90 workers have been dismissed since the wildcat action began. eNCA reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones is following developments and joins me now for the very latest. Pule, a very warm good morning to you, colleague. What's the very latest you can share with us regarding this strike, knowing that 90 workers now so far have been dismissed?
Well, definitely the latest correspondence we understand has been sent to the Metro from the National Treasury includes how they should be following principles that have to be implemented by the city, which speaks to reducing operational expenditure by 25%, increasing revenue collection by about 95%, and reducing the contracted services in the Metro, amongst others. And these are some of the issues that have been taking place to try and ensure that the city can stabilize its finances before it could consider whether it will be prioritizing the disgruntled workers from the South African Municipal Workers Union. We understand all of these plans will be reviewed in December, and if it is indeed working for the city financially, then they could be then talking to the union regarding some of the wage increments in the next financial year. But I'm talking to the mayor now just to get an update on this issue. Celia Brink joins me this morning on eNCA. Thank you very much for chatting to us, Mayor. Just in regards to the latest, I know there's been engagements all the time with the unions, Imatu, Samu. What's the latest? Because as you enter the city, it looks as though it's business as usual. Everything has stabilized so far. But what's the latest?
Unfortunately, it's not a business as usual, because if you go further afield, if you go especially into townships, you see power outages, water leaks, sewage leaks that haven't been repaired for days on end, waste not being collected. And the fact is that the majority of our workers aren't participating in the strike, but those who are causing critical delays. And there's also been instances of violence, intimidation and criminality. At the weekend, one of our water team members was attacked by a group of people who had earlier warned him not to work. They told him, listen, there's a strike, you're not meant to work. And then the same group of people followed him to a family member's house. He was shot, he was hijacked, he was left for dead. I visited him in hospital yesterday. He confirmed this to me, and I really hope that this event is a turning point and that the leadership of SAMWU thinks carefully of their next moves so that this isn't escalated, that we don't in fact see the loss of human life.
You went to court previously to declare the strike illegal. The court order went in your favor, but we've seen that some of the municipal workers have continued to embark on this illegal strike, which would then mean they're in contempt of courts as well. What's the next step from the city? What are you going to be doing? Because I know you've issued out dismissal letters as well, about 93 workers affiliated to the union. What are you doing next?
So we're in the Labour Courts today to get a contempt of court order. We tried that last week. We were unsuccessful. The Labour Court said there clearly is an unprotected strike in Tshwane, although SAMWU said to the court that there isn't. They denied the existence of the strike. The court said there clearly is, but the court required more details of how the interdict is being breached. We hope we're going to get it today. We believe that we now have evidence of large-scale participation in the strike, as well as intimidation of workers who do in fact want to work.
Where did you go wrong? Was there an issue in terms of accommodating this increment? Because we're being told that already from 2020 to 2021, there were sort of talks as well. The former mayor of the city would have been Randall Williams in terms of trying to implement the 3.5% wage increment. Now, from July to date, they want, I think it's about 5% increment. Where did you go wrong? Does the city really don't have any money to accommodate them?
So these salary increments are negotiated at national level, at bargaining council level. There isn't necessarily, taking into account the individual circumstances of the municipalities, but there is an exemption clause in the collective agreement that allows municipalities on a case-by-case basis to make our case. Now, there's also a bit of history in Tshwane. Back in 2019, the city switched to a different salary scale. The effect of that was between 12 and 18% across the board salary increases to workers. This was unique to Tshwane. This had a significant financial impact on the city. And of course, we then went through COVID. Many people through COVID lost their jobs, except for civil servants. There was no job losses in government. And many of the ratepayers couldn't pay. So the city has had a number of significant financial shocks: lockdown, load shedding, administration, salary increases granted outside of collective bargaining. And the reality is that we don't have the money to pay these increases. And I've said it over and over again, if we pay those increases today, in 2 months' time, we won't be able to make payroll. That's how bad it is, and that's how important it is to stick to this financial rescue plan, to implement the difficult decisions so that in future years, we do have the ability to grant salary increases.
Just lastly, what happens next? If the dismissed workers come with legal representation, will the city reconsider in terms of taking them back? Because there's now a vacant hall. It means that just about 90 of those workers who would have been responsible for ensuring, services and working in the city, that rubbish is collected, that pipes are fixed, that will mean a backlog as well. But what will be the city's next move?
So it's important to note that summary dismissal is a very serious sanction. You don't just do that. There were 3 warnings given to workers who aren't attending to their work to say to them, please give us an explanation. Give us, are you on leave? Are you ill? Is there some circumstances that don't allow you to do your work? So those opportunities were granted, and I'm sure if there is some sort of legal representation that does account for the absence from work, aside from participation in an unprotected strike, that can be considered. That would be up to the city manager. At the same time, for the folks who have ignored warning after warning after warning and are clearly participating in an unprotected strike, if we simply rehire those folks, the message would be, you can do this the next time and the next time, and there'll be no consequences. That would affect service delivery. That would affect management and the discipline of the workforce.
So in essence, the city's not looking at taking them back?
No. No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Brink, the City of Tshwane Mayor, joining us this morning.
Right, well, thank you so much, Pule Letshwiti-Jones, for having this conversation with us. And we'll continue, of course, bringing you those developments around what happens, especially even with those Samwu workers regarding the strike. 90 of them, we understand, having been dismissed so far.